Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final third. And today we're going to be doing our Premier League Matchweek 7 predictions. Been an interesting last couple of weeks. Last week had a lot of upsets. We want the Premier League to be like that. We want it to be an open league, and we hope that it can be the same this week. But again, let's actually hope we get some correct results and predictions in this weekend. Before we get into the video, Al, do you want to know the player from the last video?
Yes, the player was Robbie Fowler, a Liverpool legend. Let us know if you got that in the comments. And yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, good player, very, very good player. Obviously Liverpool, so we don't like him, but yeah, that's it. Let's just get straight into the video. So the first game is Bournemouth versus Fulham. Ali, who do you think is going to come out on top in that game?
Yeah, I've gone Bournemouth 2-1. They're at home. They got players like Semenyo, Kluivert, just really good players, especially going forward. I really rate Iriola, and I just think they got a better team than Fulham, to be fair. And again, that home advantage, but I do think it'll be a close game because I think the quality in both teams are very similar. But I think Bournemouth is just a more balanced team than Fulham. But yeah, I still think Fulham have a good enough attacking threat to be able to grab a goal. But at the end of the day, I still think it'll be 2-1 to Bournemouth. I really rate the players that Bournemouth got. Like I said, Semenyo, I really rate him, and I'm sure he'll get a move in maybe January or summer to a bigger club. But yeah, 2-1. What about you, Hassan?
I've gone for 3-1. I just think Bournemouth, obviously both teams, good quality teams, but I think Bournemouth slightly edges Fulham in terms of quality, and I think as well their form is better than Fulham. I don't think Fulham's been the most consistent team in the league, so yeah, but I think Bournemouth has been getting good results recently, so they got a good result against Spurs, had an excellent game away, so I feel like this is the game where, they should shine. But obviously Fulham is still a good side. They can still, get a result. But I think this game we do back Bournemouth to win just because of the style of play. I think Fulham, obviously they play good football too, but I think Bournemouth just plays a more attractive style of football. And I think that's what will give them the edge in this game. So that's why I want a 3-1. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with the 2-1 win for Bournemouth. We've all gone for Bournemouth wins all round. I think a major aspect is the home advantage. Bournemouth seem to play very well at home and, get results. And, they played Leeds in the last weekend and they were actually very close to losing, but they still got a result. They got a late equaliser. That's a sign of a good side, if you're able to even just claw back a result from a position where it doesn't look likely. Fulham are a good team, but, I just think the home advantage for Bournemouth will be vital in this game. So I've gone with a 2-1 win for Bournemouth. We'll move on to the next game, and the next game is Leeds versus Tottenham. Al, who did you predict to win?
Yeah, I've gone for a narrow win for Tottenham. I've gone 1-0, only 1-0. I think Leeds were looking decent a bit recently. Obviously they drew against Bournemouth. I'm sure they'd be very disappointed to concede that late minute equaliser. But I still think they're playing decent for their level. For the level of players that they have. To be fair, I think all the promoted teams have surprised us a little with how they've been and some of the results that they've got. And yeah, I still think Tottenham will win. They're obviously got much more quality in their side. I think Thomas Frank's a great manager. And obviously they've been a bit shaky in the last couple of games. Obviously they drew against Wolves in the last minute as well, and in the Champions League as well against Villarreal. But I still think they're just a much better team in terms of quality than Leeds, and I don't think the home advantage for Leeds will be enough to get a result for them. What about you, Hassan?
I've given it 2-1 to Tottenham. Obviously Tottenham are the better side, I think. Obviously made really good signings, especially Xavi Simons. He's been very good. But I think obviously Tottenham not been getting the best results recently. A lot of draws lately as well. So, that's why I give them a narrow win. I don't think it'll be a convincing win just because of the latest form. I just don't think Tottenham have been performing at the level, especially defensively, a bit shaky sometimes. You'd expect them to do better, to be fair. Like looking at the squad, they're quite all round very good players. Especially the midfield with the addition of Palhinha, he's been pretty good for them. So yeah, it's just you'd expect Tottenham to win, but I think it'll be a close game just because I think Leeds might, sit back and go on the counter, maybe get a goal. So yeah, that's why I've given them 2-1. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 2-0 win for Tottenham. Obviously, again, we've all gone for wins for Tottenham. They are the better team, clear and obvious. They have a much better squad, They are European champions, whether we like to say that or not, it's true. They have players that, especially like Mickey van der Ven, who's a centre-back, but it seems to be clutching up. He scored quite a lot of goals. Joao Palhinha, experienced players, know how to win games, know how to win titles. Listen, Tottenham need that mentality. I think Thomas Frank is doing a good job so far. People, we've had new managers come in and do worse, new managers come in and do a lot better. But, with the way Tottenham were last season, they're a lot better than they were last season, which is obviously what they wanted. Leeds did push above their weight and did get a result against Bournemouth again. Kind of heartbroken not to get the win. But I think that even though they have a great atmosphere at Ellen Road, I think that Tottenham will come and not cruise the win, but I think they will get a 2-0 win. Probably score early and then score late. So that's my prediction there. We'll go on to the next game, and it's Arsenal versus West Ham. No better place to start than with Ali. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go against my team. I've gone 3-1 Arsenal. Let's just, I think it's pretty clear that Arsenal are a much better side than West Ham, and obviously West Ham have only just brought in Nuno, who's only had one training session with them. So, he's still getting used to the team, still trying to figure out what his lineup is that he wants to play, who's going to be his players that he wants to start and stuff. However, you could look back at maybe the last couple of seasons. We have gotten results at the Emirates. But I think this is not going to play into it this game, unfortunately. But I still think we can grab a goal. Just maybe a bit of a jammy goal, a bit of a scrappy goal from maybe Jared Bowen, or maybe some quality from Somerville or Diouf. They've looked really good, especially in the last game against Everton. But like I said, considering that Nuno's only just come in, I think it'll be really difficult for him to be able to get these players to get a result. But if we do lose, you can't really blame the players or the team. The manager, because Arsenal are just levels above in terms of quality. So obviously they're chasing the title and they've closed the gap with Liverpool in the last weekend. So I think it's going to be a pretty convincing win, unfortunately for them. But that's my take on it.
I've gone for 3-1 to Arsenal as well. Obviously, West Ham are a very good side. They've had the downs this season, but I feel like against Everton they played really well. Second half of the game, they were very dominant. Quite unlucky to maybe not get the win. I just think obviously Arsenal are a better team. In general, much stronger squad in my opinion. And as Ali said as well, Nuno's just come in and had a training session with them, so it's not enough for him to get the team to be ready to win against a side like Arsenal. I feel like he needs more time to adjust and more time, and possibly even a transfer window to get the players that he probably needs in midfield. But I think West Ham won't get thrashed. I think 3-1 is not the worst score for them, despite of how they performed of late. But I think Arsenal should win this game. At Emirates, with the squad they have, with the signings they made this summer, they should win. But obviously, Arsenal's main problem now is not feeding enough chances to Gyökeres. I feel like if they don't do that this game, maybe that will cause issues for them. Because relying on your midfield or wingers to score is not reliable. Your striker's there to be the ones to score goals, and if you don't create enough, then that will make it harder for you to win games easily. So that's why I went with 3-1. And what about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 3-0 win for Arsenal. Seems again we've all predicted the same result. I would say that I only think that they will keep a clean sheet is because I do believe they are the best defensive side in the league. They've proven that over the last couple of years. They've kept a lot of clean sheets. David Raya's won the Golden Glove. Did he win it? I'm pretty sure he won it last season. He might have even been close the season before that as well, or might have been not too sure. But we know how strong the defense is. Gabriel, fantastic player. Saliba, even Mascara came in and did a great job in the defence. I think obviously West Ham with a new manager, they could get a bounce, they could get a goal, but I just think that Arsenal at home seem to be more dominant than they are when they are away. They only just won against Newcastle, and I think they will win more convincingly at home. So I'm going with a 3-0 win for Arsenal. Now we move on to Manchester United versus Sunderland. Let's just Al, who do you think's gonna do something?
Yeah, unfortunately for you guys, I'm sure you're not going to be happy to hear this, but I predicted Sunderland to win 2-1. Like, when you look at it, Sunderland are 5th in the league, which is crazy to think for a team that's just got promoted. We haven't seen a team that's got promoted perform like this at the start of the season for a long time. And yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised because we did talk about the transfer window they had in the summer and how good it was. Again, for a promoted side as well, especially. I think they've really done well in that transfer window, spent well in the right players for the right positions. You know what I mean? They haven't just spent crazy on just big names. They've spent it on, really improving the team tactically in a way for the, getting the players that the manager wanted and thought that could improve the team. And it's shown. You got players like Xhaka, Mukiel, and just like other players that they've signed that have really improved the team, really performed well for them. Xhaka, I've heard some Sunderland fans think he's the best player that they've had in their club's history, so I guess that could be up for debate. But look, and unfortunately for Manchester United, it's a very, very dire time for them. Personally, I think Amrin will be out if he loses this game, maybe even the one after, because I think there's a international break after that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they use that opportunity to sack him. And I don't want to say he deserves it. You never want to say a manager deserves it, but look, he is not willing to change his style of play or his formation, and that might bite him in the back at the end of the day. And unfortunately, the players are just not performing well enough for him in his formation and the style of play that he wants. So, you know what I mean? And look, we know that the manager is probably not the problem at Manchester United. It goes, deeper than that with the ownership and the culture and the environment. We're seeing players like Højlund performing after leaving, McTominay as well. Just a lot of Anthony, so it clearly isn't just a managerial problem. It seems like it's a culture problem, in my opinion. And I just don't know how you fix that, really. But yeah, I'll let Hassan go ahead.
It might sound a bit controversial, but I've gone for 2-1 to United. I'm a United fan, so obviously it's a bit of a hopeful score. Look, the way I see United, it's kind of like having a dumb son. Your son is gonna go out there and perform badly in exams, and when he comes back from home, and you're gonna see Fs, but you wish he does the best. You wish he comes back with good results, but you know what to expect. It's kind of the same with United. Yeah, like I know United's gonna go out there and have an embarrassing performance against Sunderland because they're a good team, but I just wish they do well. But if they do lose, I know I'll be pissed and everything, but also I'm not going to be surprised. But this team never ceases to piss me off. Like they can't they never fail to disappoint me every single week. So it's like I know what to expect, but this score or prediction is kind of like me hoping that they'd win. Look, I know there's a lot of pressure on the Amram. It is tough for him. I can't blame him completely. Look, he's at fault for some of it too because he's being quite stubborn with the choices he's making in midfield. But overall, I think he needs to start the new goalkeeper. He needs to be starting Kobe Mainoo more often because missing out on these players can, eventually cost you your job. And losing in that fashion is never good because that's when fans and pundits start saying, "What if you start this player? What if you play this player? Maybe the result would have been different." But everyone needs to start having a team where he thinks that this team can go and win matches, not stop chopping and changing players all the time. That's his problem. He doesn't know what his starting 11 is. He keeps changing the three centre backs. You don't know what he's going to be consistent with. So it's just we don't know what to expect. Even the lineup, I don't know who he's going to put in the starting 11. To be honest. So yeah, I'll be quite interested to see how the team will start. But yeah, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. But I just hope United do get results at home, so we do have the advantage, and the fans will be behind the team. And if we lose this game, there is real pressure on Amram and the team in general. So yeah, it is looking like a scary few weeks for United, but we'll have to see, to be honest. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 2-1 win for Sunderland. Now, me as a United fan, I wish I had the positivity Hassan has and the belief. I guess he doesn't have belief, but it's more hope.
Yeah.
No, I've lost it completely, to be honest with you. The writing's on the wall. I think Ruben Amorim will be sacked, and maybe it's not on him, maybe it isn't. I think he's made a lot of mistakes as a manager. You know, you see these results happen with a lot of United coaches. Happened under Oli, happened under Mourinho, happened under Van Gaal, happened with even Ragnick. We had constant bad performances, and then we kept on getting bad results. And there are some results that will just, end you as a manager. And I think if they lose this game, even by 2-1, because you got to remember the game after that is, so we're not even going to get a result in that game. I'll tell you that for free. Yeah, it's going to be a loss. And Sunderland, like you guys have said, they have been a good team this season. So I don't want to talk about it anymore, to be honest with you. Man United just make me sad. So yeah, just 2-1 Sunderland. Yeah, let's move on. We'll move on to a more interesting game, and it's Chelsea versus Liverpool. Al, what do you think?
You know what, this one was an interesting one for me to predict, to be honest, because both the teams have been a bit shaky as of recent, really. I have gone for a 3-2 Liverpool win, though. I'm not too sure what the boys have gone for, but basically, the reason I've gone for this is, even though Liverpool are a great team, I think they've been a bit shaky. For example, in the Prem, they lost to Crystal Palace. Was it 2-1? They obviously lost to Galatasaray as well. We said it before, time and time again. They had an amazing transfer window, but I think they really have been affected by the fact that they didn't get a signing in the defence. I know they signed Leone, but he got injured with that ACL injury, which is devastating for them. And you never want to see a young player get an injury like that. It's sad to see. And on the Chelsea side of things, I think they've had 3 red cards out of the last 4 matches. That just shows how rash and
3 out of 3, really.
Yeah, well, it just shows how rash some of the players have been, and obviously that means they've lost Chalobah for the game, and it's just not ideal situation. I think defensively both teams have been absolutely not at their standards, I guess you could say. And I think just Liverpool, I think it's going to be attack versus attack in this game. And I just think Liverpool's attack is better than Chelsea's. And I think he'll get them over the line. But I think there'll be a lot of goals because of this reason. Because of the defences are a bit shaky. And the attacks are so good for both teams. I think there will be a lot of goals. But I do think, even though it's at Stamford Bridge, I think Liverpool can edge the win 3-2. We'll see. We'll see. What about you, Hassan?
I put down 2-2. Look, I think that Chelsea in general, not been the best side right now. They started off the season pretty well, but obviously with the late red cards and stuff, it's just not been great for them. The not very usual behaviour from Chelsea. It's been quite crazy for them. Liverpool not been the best team as well. As of recent, they've lost actually to Galatasaray. So, very interesting result to say the least. But yeah, I think both teams right now the issues in defense, as Ali's mentioned as well. They cannot keep a clean sheet at this point. It's very difficult for them to defend well, and we don't know what that is down to. For Liverpool, maybe a bit of nerves, maybe just not being settled enough in defense. Chelsea, we said that from the start, not enough experience in defense, and some of the injuries as well. There's been a lot of injuries for them as well. So. Yeah, and also missing Chalobah is a big miss. He's one of their senior defenders. So, yeah, it's not looking good for either team. But I think, obviously the main reason why I put a 2-2 is because of them playing Stamford Bridge. I think the fans will be behind Chelsea and trying to support them as much as possible. But I think realistically, if this was in Anfield, I think Liverpool will probably beat Chelsea really badly. But yeah, that's why I've gone for 2-2. But I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool does win this game. What about you, Carlos? What do you think?
A strange one, this game. I can't lie. Both teams aren't in very good form, surprisingly. They're both probably the 2 teams you thought would have... Liverpool at least would be challenging for the title and probably trying to retain it. And then Chelsea you thought would push on from last season. But it's very, very strange the way their season's kind of gone. Obviously, Liverpool won those games, but weren't convincing in any of them. And then they lost the last 2. And then Chelsea, being very reckless and losing games because of that. I think it will be a draw, and I think it will be 1-1. only because both teams aren't in any particular good form. I think if a team were to win it, I would probably edge at Chelsea, but I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw just because I know Liverpool, they seem to get last-minute goals, get results, and I think, both teams have, new players that aren't really working out, right? In terms of, you look at Liverpool's side of things, I think Florian Wirtz has been an absolute flop. Like, people say he's looked silky, he's looked smooth. I'm not paying 115 million pounds for a player to look silky and smooth and not do anything else. Yeah, I can pass the ball around sideways and backwards. Yeah, great. So can Scott McTominay in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? And look at what he's doing elsewhere. You see Florian Wirtz, he did great in Germany, but he's not doing well now. Listen, only been a couple games, but I don't know, man. It's not looked like he's been a good signing. He's probably eat my words now, but that's how the cookie crumbles. Again with Chelsea, they got Garnacho. He looked good against Benfica. Not the best, but I don't know. I just think it will be a 1-1 draw because both teams aren't in very good form, and I just think they'll both settle with a result. To be honest, so that's my prediction there. We'll move on to the next game, and that is Aston Villa versus Burnley. Yeah, a bit of an interesting game. What do you think?
Yeah, look, finally for Aston Villa, they finally got their win they were looking for, and a good convincing win against a good team like Fulham. Hopefully this can be the turning in their season, and hopefully they can start to perform the way they've been performing the last couple of seasons. So I predicted 2-0 for Villa. Look, Burnley, a promoted side, unfortunately they've suffered a 5-1 loss in the last weekend. So not really a good probably feeling around the camp at Burnley at the moment. After that kind of loss, it's not going to give them much confidence. Whereas on the other side, you got Villa, who just won 3-1 against Fulham, and it's their first win of the season, so that's going to give them a lot of motivation. Watkins getting his first goal for in the season, finally. Considering there's been a lot of talk about him, whether if he's a good striker or not. In the summer, whether Man United was going to try and sign him, stuff like that. So it's good. It's good for him to get a goal on the board, and hopefully he can carry on that kind of momentum. And look, when we talk about quality, we know how good Aston Villa can be. I know they didn't make any signings really in the transfer window. They signed Harvey Elliott, who I think was really good, and kind of wanted him at West Ham. And they also signed Sancho as well and Lindelof, but I think they're useless, to be honest, and I think the boys would agree with me on that one, especially Sancho. Poor attitude from him as well. I think he's not a good person for the dressing room either, so I was quite surprised when he went to Villa. But look, again, the quality of Villa is just much better than Burnley, so that's why I've given them 2-0.
I've given 3-1 to Aston Villa. Look, I mean, we saw from last game, Aston Villa had a very convincing performance. Look, they're a good side. I think it's just maybe the mentality hasn't been set right. Maybe something going on in the dressing room. I don't know. Maybe the Emi Martinez transfer rumors kind of thrown off the team, losing one of our leaders in our team and stuff. But I don't know. Like, it was just very weird. Not typical of Aston Villa. But you can see, against the good side, they did play really well. I think the likes of John McGinn, who's one of the leaders in the team, he's the captain, I think. That was a captain's performance from him. He played really well that game. Of course, he bagged the goal himself, and I think plays like that are crucial to, winning games and getting the team back on winning terms. I think they just need a bit more consistency now. Need to be on a good good run of form, and just carry on the momentum that they've had from last game. And I think Burnley, of course, they're not the worst side in the league. They've had some success. They've beaten Sunderland, obviously, but I think against the team at Aston Villa, I don't think they have the chance, just because I think Villa's just got all round very good players, and obviously Emi Martinez, he's proven to be a very good goalie in bigger moments. So, and I feel like you do need someone like that in the team to obviously help you get across the line and get the win. So yeah, and I think they should win, and hopefully with that goal of Watkins should give a bit more confidence and try and get him into the good form of run that he had from previous 2 seasons. So yeah, that's why I give him 3-1 to Aston Villa. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 2-0 win for Aston Villa. I think, like you guys said, the confidence they've gained from that previous win against Fulham is just massive. Burnley are a promoted side, and like we said, the promoted sides are doing quite well. But out of the three, I think Burnley are the poorest, and I think they're the most likely to get relegated. And I think Aston Villa are going to start building a bit of momentum now. Obviously, Emmy put them in games for, I mean, the last couple of games he's started, since obviously the transfer window closed. He's been vital for Aston Villa keeping results and obviously getting their previous win. To be honest, I don't really want to spend too much time on this game because I just think the writing's on the wall. I think it's another kind of standard win for Aston Villa. Simple as that. But we'll move on to the next game, and the next game is Crystal Palace vs Everton. This one's a very interesting game and could be one of the games of the weekend, if we're honest. Yeah, Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Khas. I think this will be an exciting game. Both teams playing really well at the moment. Obviously, Everton, getting a draw, they'll probably be a bit disappointed with that at home against West Ham. With the quality that they have, they probably would have expected to win that game. And I think a lot of people expected them to win that game. We expected them to win that game. We predicted that. Anyway, going into it, I've predicted 3-1 Crystal Palace. Look, I feel like Crystal Palace are the team to watch at the moment. They're at the top, they're at the top right now, in terms of like they're unbeaten. The only team that's unbeaten, I think they're unbeaten in their last 18 games or something, which is crazy to think about. A team like Crystal Palace, obviously they won the FA Cup and the Community Shield. They're just playing amazing. Glasner is probably going to be heavily sought after by a lot of clubs, including Manchester United. He had a lot of rumours about that as being a potential replacement for Amorim, and I think he'd be great for Man United. However, he does play the same, I think, formation. Well, he plays a 3-back, and we know how much United fans are fed up of that. Anyway, but Palace are really playing that formation well and that system well, and Glasner's got the team playing amazing football, considering that they've lost Eze and Elise. You'd think they would drop down in quality, but they just haven't. They've carried on performing at a high level, getting the goals, getting the results. They obviously beat Liverpool, which would really boost them in terms of motivation going into this game. And yeah, I just think I don't think the home advantage for Everton will be enough to get them over the line or even get a result. So I've gone 3-1 for Crystal Palace.
I've gone for a draw. Interestingly enough, I think that obviously both sides are very good. Crystal Palace obviously being one of the standout sides in the season, obviously being unbeaten. Beating Liverpool the other day. But I think because both teams are going to push, for the win and stuff. I think there'll be a lot of missed chances in the game. I think it'll be an exciting game where both teams are trying to win. But I just think because of the nature of the game, I think there'll be a lot of misplaced passes or attacking, too much attacking football, like end-to-end football. So I think, I don't know, we'll have to see, to be honest. But from the way I see it is, I think it'll be a game, just mainly attacking football, but with a lot of just missed shots or passes or whatever. I think it'll be a bit of a chaotic game. But I think as well, playing at Everton's pitch does play into Everton's hands. They haven't lost yet, I think, at the new stadium, which is good, obviously, but they haven't won every single game yet. So that's why I'm leaning towards a draw for that reason. Even though Crystal Palace are a very good side, I think Everton got good players too. I think maybe the defense is Everton's slight worries right now. I think the right back, especially O'Reilly, is not the most confident right back I've seen. Any good winger, for example, the likes of Mateta and the Crystal Palace attack in general just looks threatening to Everton. So yeah, I just think it'll be a tough game for Everton in terms of defensive side, but I think attacking wise they could definitely do well. Especially the 3-back, they play quite high up the pitch, and if they could find a way around the press, then they could definitely attack and score goals. But I think because of the game, I think it will be 1-1. What about you, Khalas?
I actually predicted a 3-1 win for Crystal Palace. To be honest, if it was at Everton Stadium, I might have changed the result, but I'm going to stick to it, to be honest with you. Crystal Palace have been, fantastic. They're already 18 games unbeaten, if I'm not mistaken. They just beat Liverpool. You know, they've had very convincing wins throughout that run. I think they beat Arsenal, or they must have got a result against Arsenal. You know, they play most of the top sides, and obviously they beat Man City in the FA Cup. You know what I mean? They've been no slouches. They really have deserved the results they're getting. Yeah, Everton, like you said, they're good, but like you said, there is defensive frailties. I think it's the same with Liverpool, and I think obviously Crystal Palace capitalised on that, and I think Crystal Palace can definitely capitalise again. You know, surprisingly without Eze, and to be fair, even Elise is gone, and look at how good they've been for both of their clubs. You know, top talents. They've gone, but even now, they're still performing. Ismaila Sarr's performing really well. Pino's being very interesting for them too. Obviously, Mateta's been fantastic. We know how good he is. You know, scoring goals constantly in the Premier League now. Yeah, I've gone with a 3-1 win for Crystal Palace, and I think that's a fair result, to be honest. And yeah, that's it really. We'll move on to the next game, and that is Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Al, what do you think in that game?
I've predicted a win for Newcastle. I've predicted 2-0. Look, I'm not going to lie, I feel really bad for the Nottingham Forest supporters at the moment. It's looking really dire at the moment. You know, they were on such a good trajectory going up, you know, with Nuno. And then, you know, the whole stuff that was going on with him and the chairman and the owner obviously cost him his job at the end. And I'm sure fans would have been so devastated to see that whole situation unfold and see Nuno leave, get sacked eventually by the ownership. And obviously it's a poor move. Nuno is such a top-class manager, and I'm really grateful that he's come to West Ham, you know. I'm hoping he can do good things for us. And again, yeah, I just feel really bad for Forest. And obviously they've been losing most of their games. I don't think they've won a game yet, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, it's just not looking good for them. Even though they are a good team, I think they're really struggling to adapt to...
They won their first game.
Is there? All right, sorry. But yeah. I don't think it matters, unfortunately, in this game because, you know, they're still struggling to adapt to that Ange Postecoglou style of play. You know, it's very demanding. Of course, when he was at Tottenham, they got a lot of injuries because of that style of play. And going over to the Newcastle side, they're just such a great team at the moment. Of course, they unfortunately lost to Arsenal in the last minute, but they showed good positive plays in that game, good positive you know, things like, you know, with the attack, Walter Marder looks good, obviously got a goal. And yeah, I think they're a good team. They got good players like Elanga, Wissa, Anthony Gordon, Guimaraes, Joelinton, and their defense is pretty solid. The keeper's pretty solid. Had a great performance against Arsenal, so I think they'll be able to keep a clean sheet and get the goals as well to win the game. And again, it's at St James's Park as well, which is, we know how hard it is to play there. And yeah, so I've given them 2-0.
I've also given them 2-0. You know, as Ali said, Newcastle is a strong side. I think Forest, obviously, the stuff that's been lately going on, it's not working in their favour at all. And look, you could try and talk about Ange Postecoglou and his system, whatever, but I think the overall environment of the club is not the best right now. I think it was better when Nuno was there before all of this happened. So obviously that's throwing off the players and, of course, have a negative impact on the results. But yeah, I think Newcastle, obviously very strong midfield, all-round good players. I think the midfield will dominate in this game. And we know St James's Park, only very good teams can win there. And that's not to say Forest isn't a good team, but I think in this moment in time, they're not in form and they're not doing the best. So I think it's safe to say that, you know, Newcastle should win this game quite convincingly. They can score a goal for us, but I think that Newcastle overall, the midfield and defense is solid. So I think they'll find it very hard to break down the defense. And obviously, Nick Pope as well as an excellent goalie, made some big stops the other day, the last Premier League game. So I think, yeah, he's going to be a key figure in this game. And yeah, I think, you know, if Forest, you know, lose 2-0, it's not the worst result for them, just, you know, because of the previous results that they've had. And yeah, I just think overall Newcastle should win this game 2-0. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 3-0 win for Newcastle. I think that Nottingham Forest, they have a game in the Europa League tomorrow as we're recording on the Wednesday against a team called Midtjylland, I think. Midtjylland. I think that's what they're called. That could build a bit of confidence, I guess. It's at home, it's against the team. I mean, if they don't win that game, then I see no hope in this game. I think Newcastle just won 4-0 in the Champions League. Big confidence builder. To win into the Champions League as a whole gives that vibe, hearing that anthem and all that. And then, coming back to St. James's Park, the fans are going to be on a buzz, you know what I mean? Even though they lost to Arsenal, they only lost in the last minute, and really and truly, some might say they got robbed. But at the end of the day, I think that St. James's Park is a massive difference for Newcastle, and I think it will be the difference in this game. And also that Forest aren't very good at the moment, so 3-0 win is what I will. We'll move on to Wolves versus Brighton. Another game that is very interesting. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, like Wolves, another team that I think are looking really, poor at the moment, and to be honest, worrying for them really and their fans. I'm sure they're very worried. Obviously, they've only got 1 point so far this season in 6 games. That is, relegation form, unfortunately, and I think they could get relegated this season. Unless they can somehow turn around, maybe make some signings in the January transfer window that can maybe help them. But it would be, probably a miracle if that can happen. And on the other side, you've got a team like Brighton, who are such a consistently good team every season. Even with a new manager, they don't change in terms of quality. They always bring in the right players for the system, for the manager. And they always manage to come up with that, one key player like Baliba this time. Obviously, it was Casado before. Now it's Baliba. Welbeck in good form. Obviously, scoring the 2 goals against, was it Chelsea they played? Yeah, Chelsea. So, obviously, they're in good form. They won 3-1 against Chelsea. And, Chelsea being the good team that they are, now that they're going to come play Wolves, I think it'll be an easy game for them. And yeah, with the form, like I said, that they're in, I think they'll really breeze through this fixture. And again, I think it's looking really worrying for Wolves. I have given them a goal only because they got players still like Strand Larson who I really rate, and I think he can, maybe get them a goal. But apart from that, I think it's not looking good for them, and I'd be worried if I was a Wolves fan, and I do feel a bit bad for them. But yeah, 3-1 Brighton. What about you, Hassan?
I've given 3-1 to Brighton. Obviously Brighton, good side, we know about them. Very good style football as well. Wolves are looking like a terrible team, to be honest. Like, just 1 point in 6 games is really bad. Like, even if for a team like Wolves, who's not exactly have the best players and lost a lot of their players from last window, I think that's not an excuse for get 1 point in only 6 games. And I'm saying this as a United fan because we're not exactly the best either, but I thought 1 point for any team is not good, and I think Wolves are, as Ali said, in relegation zone right now. So obviously not good. Wolves, as we know, usually mid-table club, so even for their standards, is pretty low. And Brighton, good side. They've not had the most convincing performances ever. They've been quite in and out of games. Some games they play really well, some games they don't really play well. But of course they carry that threat in attack. Obviously, players like Matoma, Minte, Welbeck as well. He's been performing really well for them. 2 goals against Chelsea is, for a player of his age, and he's just proven to be a good player. He has the quality, and sometimes experience is always better than having talent. Obviously, when you're experienced, you know how to take advantage of certain situations and know how to score in those situations as well. And he does exactly that. And I feel like that's what a player like Welbeck provides to the team. But yeah, Wolves, I think they will get the goal because Brighton, I don't think they've had many clean sheets since the start of the season. So that's why I've given them a goal. I think Wolves, obviously, they've won the least goals in the league, but I think they do carry a threat up front. As Ali said, Strand Larson, he's got the height up front, also a lot of pace too. So I think he can be dangerous on the counter, but I think Brighton should win this game comfortably, especially getting a big result against Chelsea. That should probably fill them with more confidence for the next game. And that's why I think that Brighton will win this game 3-1. What about you, Carlos?
I've gone with a 2-1 win. I think that Wolves, even though they did draw to Tottenham, it's a big result for them. They almost won it. I think they're going to build a bit of confidence. Still don't think they're going to win the game. to even get a result. I think that Brighton are the better side, and obviously they're starting to build a bit of momentum themselves. I just think that Wolves will be a bit better at home. I think it could be one of those where they score early and then they lose by a Brighton comeback. But I think that they will, in front of I believe it's in front of fans, if I'm not mistaken. They will perform to a higher level than they have in the last couple games. I think they need to. Yeah, I think they need to. And yeah, for me, I think it will still be a Brighton win, but I think Wolves will have probably a better performance than they've had in the last couple games. But we'll move on to the final game of the weekend. Brentford vs Manchester City. Brentford being in fantastic form. Man City, Haaland on fire. What do you guys think?
Yeah, both teams are in really great form. Brentford, obviously, me and Khas had them to get relegated, so they've really surprised us this season. And I'm happy to see that, considering that they lost, players like Mbeumo, Wissa, Norgard, and then they obviously lost a manager in Thomas Frank, who was so good. And obviously, it's hard when you have to change, how you play and stuff like that. But Keith Andrews has done a really good job, and the team's done a really good job so far. And yeah, again, like I said, they've been very surprising. But on the other hand, you've got a team as well who are also in really good form in Manchester City, who have players like Haaland, who I said in the last video is the best striker in the Premier League. Could argue in the world, but you've got players like Mbappe, who he's up against in terms of that. But personally, he's probably my favourite striker at the moment. And yeah, he obviously bagged a couple of goals in the Champions League tonight, which we're recording on the Wednesday against Monaco. And he obviously scored in the last game against Burnley. And look, they beat Burnley 5-1. We expected it. That's going to, give them the confidence going into this game. And I mean, it's Man City. They've won the league God knows how many times in the last 10 years. You know what I mean? So you expect them to win. That's why I've given them the 4-1. I've given them 4-1 against Brentford. Again, I think Brentford are good enough to get a goal, but I just don't think they'll be able to get a result against Man City. So, yeah.
I've gone for 4-2 to Man City. Obviously we know City right now on form. Maybe I think today they drew against Monaco, so not the best result for them. I think City's biggest problem right now is the defense. I think especially the fullbacks. They're having to use centre backs at fullbacks, which isn't ideal because centre backs aren't as mobile as a fullback. Fullbacks tend to be a bit shorter, a bit quicker on the ball. So yeah, I think they're lacking someone who's able to lock down wingers effectively. So, and I think Brentford, with the threat they got up front, the likes of Ouattara, and as well Thiago. Thiago's had a very good start to the season as well. Obviously, scored 2 goals against United last game. So I feel like that's a player who's in form and can definitely bring some threat up front. That's why I give Brentford 2 goals, just because I think they do carry that threat. But I think this will be a game of 2 attacks. So Man City's attack versus Brentford's attack. I don't think defensively they're both very strong teams, but I think Man City as well, they should be able to win, just based on the fact that I think they have better quality attackers and midfielders who are able to create chances for the striker. So that's what I think it's going to be. And if I'm at Brentford Stadium, so it does carry the advantage to Brentford, but I think Man City should still get a result. But all about you, Khas, what do you think?
I've gone with a slightly rogue prediction, maybe you might say. I think it's been a bit of a... We've been losing a lot of points, being a bit boring, trying to go for the team that's been in good form and, not really reminding ourselves that the Premier League anybody can win and get a result. So for me, I've gone with a 2-2 draw. I think that Brentford at home have been fantastic. Obviously, it's not really a hard job beating Manchester United. They got a draw against Chelsea too. Away from home, they haven't been very good, but at home, they've been fantastic. Jordan Henderson being unbelievable for them, getting assists left, right, and centre. Like Hassan was saying about the attacking players, they look very, very dangerous. Thiago, Ouattara, and Shada, is how you say his name?
Yeah, Kevin Shada, yeah.
Shada, yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is a very dangerous front three. They lost Wissa and Mbeumo, and I'm not going to say they replaced them, but, it looks like they're doing a very good job in, playing in their place. Yeah, obviously we talk about Man City. I think if Man City score, it will be from Erling Haaland. I don't think there's more of a better goal outlet than Erling Haaland, everything kind of goes through him goals wise. You know, there's not really a player in the world that can do what he does. I think he can score every type of goal. You know, obviously me and Ali have had a big discussion about Isak and Haaland. Like Haaland, you know, he's just a fantastic finisher, and we knew this. We know this. He's done it throughout his whole career since the youth, where he scored those 9 goals against that for Norway in that international game, to now, where he's just able to score every type of goal. So yeah, I think on Man City side, Haaland will be their main player, but I think Brentford will surprise and will get a 2-2 draw. And that's it, guys. Those are our predictions for the weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave your predictions in the comments below. We'll see if we agree or not on any of them. And you let us know if you disagree with any of our predictions. Before we go, we just wanted to do the quiz. And Al, you want to go ahead and do that for us?
Yes, so let's begin with the first fact, which is in 2002 to 03, he became the first Arsenal player ever to score a goal at the new Emirates Stadium, but it was in a pre-season testimonial, not a competitive match. The second fact, he captained Brazil in the 2006 World Cup quarter-final against France with Cafu and Emerson both unavailable. The third fact, he was once left out of Arsenal's Champions League squad due to an ongoing back injury, during which time Cesc Fabregas broke through in his position. The fourth fact, after Arsenal, he returned to Greece to play for Panathinaikos, winning the Greek Cup in 2010. And the fifth and the final fact, despite his reputation as a defensive midfielder, he scored 19 goals for Arsenal in all competitions, including a brace against Middlesbrough in 2005. Now let us know if you know who that is in the comments, and again, we'll reveal him in the next video.
Thank you guys for coming in. We really appreciate you giving your time for the video, and hopefully we can have more interesting content. We do have the international break coming up next week, so we will have a bit of different content coming through. Leave your suggestions down below if you want to see anything in particular, but that's it for now, and we will see you in the next video. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on your notifications so you get notified when we upload our next video. So thank you very much, and see you in the next one. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.